Welcome to Rabbit Troop Sucks.
We're back.
Hey, we're celebrating our 10th episode. Mike just noted that maybe we should tell people, hey, it's our 10th episode. Thanks for listening. I know every single person has listened to all 10 episodes.
That's one episode per listener we have now.
That's generous.
Actually, I don't know that that's true.
Maybe just one person's just listening to it all the time.
That could be. No, we had someone from Jamaica listen to it.
We're going to ride that. So
Yeah.
all of our Jamaican listeners out there, we really appreciate that. And we're never going to review Cool Runnings, but we'll probably bring it up in most podcasts. So it's like a spiritual review.
We do talk about Cool Runnings a lot in our side lives.
It's funny that this is kind of being brought up because I also have a secondary spiritual review that I note later in this podcast that I'm going to keep making references to a certain movie. And today we're covering 1994's Brainscan. And I'm going to make a couple references to another movie that I brought up numerous times in the past. I feel I'll probably make references numerous times in the future. And then if you just piecemeal all of them together, you have a secret episode that would just take years to compile.
What movie are you referring to? Or do I not get to know?
No, I can tell you right now.
Okay.
I feel I reference Fred Savage and Howie Mandel's Little Monsters quite often. It was a very formative movie for me growing up. And Brainscan is 100% the adult version of Little Monsters.
That's fair. So, admission time. I don't know that I've ever actually seen Little Monsters, but when we are introduced to one of the characters in this movie, the first thing that I thought was, this reminds me of the cover for Little Monsters.
I was going to say, like, you almost don't even need to see the movie. If you just are familiar with the cover and maybe a quick synopsis where monsters come out of your bed and bring you to another world, well, imagine they're serial killers and welcome to Brainscan.
Yeah, that's okay. That checks out.
So something I want to note, sometimes we go through these movies and we read a little bit of trivia, and I'm about to load up, what the trivia of this movie is.
The trivia for this movie was really boring.
Yeah, pretty much. And I just want to read a synopsis. I don't think I read a synopsis last time to Highway to Hell. And the synopsis of Brainscan is, a teenager is part of an interactive video game where he kills innocent victims. Later, the murders become real. A pretty direct shot at this. Yeah, so imagine if Little Monsters was with serial killers and you have this movie that's in front of you. The trivia that I wanted to note, and I said I was going to watch this, and Mike and I just finished watching this together. I've seen this movie before. Mike has not. That watching this movie, one, outside of Little Monsters, etc., I kept thinking, what do I like about this movie? What am I going to come back to? And one of the things is, one, I love this kid's bedroom. I'm going to say that time and time again. But going back to, sorry, I know I'm digressing. I'm looking at all my notes. The trivia itself is that the director, was it John Flynn? That the director did not get along with Edward Furlong. And we just watched this movie, and I told Mike, I was like, I know you haven't seen it, but this is something I want to pay attention to. And honestly, I don't think this came across in the film at all. Like the director not getting along with Edward Furlong.
Yeah, I don't think that really.
It was just a weird trivia because I thought, okay, and now I'm going to reanalyze this movie. I haven't seen it in decades or, however long.
Yeah, so you're like looking for.
Right. Like,
yeah, okay.
It's going to get like some weird moments and weird filming. Like the director's going to stick it to him, or Edward Furlong's going to say something weird. He's
going to leave like a bad take in there just to fuck with him.
Yeah, I think the trivia we saw, and you could go on IMDb, was something like, the director's like, as a 15-year-old, he couldn't act, whatever. I don't think he can't act. I just think he was 15 years old, and we kind of got to see a picture of what it's like to be a sort of 90s 15-year-old. And I don't mean the serial killing. I just mean some of the fashion, the music, various other things. I mean, just probably just walk on set and do it.
I mean, didn't Eddie Furlong famously, Eddie Furlong?
Edward?
Edward. Yeah, well, I'm going to call him Eddie. We're familiar. Wasn't he like famously cast in T2 because James Cameron like ran into him in the street and he was being a total bitch about something, and he's like, that's the kind of bitchy attitude I want for. No, isn't that like a real thing?
I did not.
Okay, well, as we get into this, I'm going to look up that trivia and I'll affirm my understanding later on. But yeah, no, the trivia for this movie, a lot of times for these movies, there's like very little trivia. And IMDb had a lot of entries for this one, but they all were super boring trivia.
Yeah.
Like, you may notice that a lot of characters in this movie had Aerosmith posters in their rooms. Like, I did notice that.
We did notice
like,
that.
Does that mean anything? And it does not.
Outside of Edward Furlong was in a video for an.
He was in a video. There were also multiple trivia entries where it's like the character of Steve, his last name was actually Johnson in the movie. And it's like, no one gives a shit about this.
Yeah, it was super inconsequential. Anything, right. Even some of the goofs. Mike lived in New Jersey at a point in time, and I was like, okay, so I read some trivia, and I don't always read the trivia beforehand, or sometimes I'm intrigued and do my own research, and I know Mike does the same as we're watching or taking independent notes, but this time we watched it together. And I told Mike, I was like, oh, yeah, you lived in New Jersey. Do you notice anything? But it was filmed in Quebec. And then I think one of the trivia points was, but an area code pops up, but that'd be Pennsylvania. So that's how boring it was. Like, oh, bickering. Is this movie in Pennsylvania? Is it in New Jersey? Is it in Canada? Who knows? Who cares? I don't mean that as a diss against the movie. It's just, again, pretty inconsequential. But in this movie, yeah, so I noted from the IMDb synopsis that this is all about being in a video game. It's being interactive. In our last podcast, Mike and I were discussing, I said something, along the lines of this would be like Lawnmower Man, or I think Mike brought up, which we'll review one day, Virtuosity, something like that. But I did say this did not have any of the VR. It was more of like the head games of a VR video game situation. And I also want to note, and I know this is later in my pages, but I'm so aggressively going to say it right now. This is clearly someone highlighting that the nightmare of this movie is what every parent was afraid of with any video game. My kid is going to play this video game. They're going to be sucked into this alt reality. They're going to be a terrible demon person, and they're going to do all these terrible things. And that is what this movie is. For that reason, I have fun all throughout it. I think that's total, BS about that in video games. But this is clearly the mentality. This movie came out in 1994. I mean, we're right around the lines of Mortal Kombat, various other things. Parents are all up in arms about all of this stuff, and clearly it is just mass media. I mean, social media doesn't even exist yet.
No.
God help us all if it did. Because
this is definitely like whatever the video game version of Satanic Panic is. This came out when people were like, oh, there's blood.
I think that Satanic Panic was all Dungeons and Dragons. So
right,
all you Stranger Things fans out there, like the 80s, which not a spoiler, but the most recent season of Stranger Things, season 4, highlights. Oh, if you play these games, you're in league with the devil. So,
yeah. But slight spoiler, where'd Eddie get that power from for that amp?
His heart.
Was it? Okay.
Eddie, if you ever want to review a film with us, I saw that some Comic-Cons were treating you poorly. You could just come on as whoever you want to be and just review a film with Rapid Troop Sucks.
Yeah.
Because, come on. Come on, Eddie.
The doors are always open here. We need a catchy name for the studio here. I'll think on that.
Rapid Troop is awesome. It's like the reverse situation. It's like Bizarro Superman. It's it's all great in the Rabbit Troop lair, but you leave. That sucks.
Yeah, well, Rabbit Troop lair is a little. We'll get there. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, where do you just want to jump into this?
Yeah, I don't know. We can jump into it.
Mike, overall, what are your views of Brainscan going into this? Mike was intrigued, and I think I said last time that when I was watching Highway to Hell, this was the recommended movie after, and I thought, wow, this movie actually came into my mind beforehand. I wanted to go see it, and now I think we just watched it on Tubi right after Highway to Hell. Again, the recommendation. So I've seen it before. I remember who I saw this. I saw this with my friend Scott, and we went to the movie theater, and we saw Brainscan, and I remember walking away thinking the whole time, I want this Richie Rich bedroom that is basically like someone looted the Spencer's gift shop and went to Babbage's and said, I want all of the PC video games. I want a high-tech monitor. I want to go to Spencer's. I want cool t-shirts. I want heavy metal posters. I want black lights. And I want some kind of fountain that spans the entirety of...
Oh, you mean his like cylinder of sparkling purple water
yes.
that he had for some reason?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want an overpriced cylinder of things. And then we later learn his room is basically a loft apartment. There's refrigerators, microwaves, stoves.
It's like the attic of his the mansion that he lives in, apparently by himself.
Right. So, like, honestly, the psychological effect I had while watching this film was looking back at it. I mean, I've maybe seen this movie once since I saw it, since '94. But looking back at it, I'm like, oh, this totally makes sense. I just want this dude's bedroom and kind of lifestyle. No parents, unlimited money.
We find out why his parents aren't there in a little bit. One of the parents, we find out why they're not there immediately. But then eventually the second. But yeah, he has, for the time, probably $300,000 worth of electronic equipment.
God, yeah.
In this, he's got a TV kind of thing. I mean, it's a TV, but it's like tiny, but it's of the time.
He has an avatar, AI butler. I shouldn't say avatar.
Yeah, he has an AI butler. We'll talk about him later, but like there's speakers surrounding and above the TV. I think the end tables on either side of his weird chair are also speakers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, probably. I mean, this kid's got unlimited CDs. He has unlimited posters. He has every video game known to man.
He's got it all.
Yeah, he's got a TV. He's got, I don't know, like a queen or king size bed. He lives in an attic situation. He's got his own refrigerator. It's totally stocked. Dad is never around. He's like traveling for business or something.
Anyway, so I mean, let's get into the spoiler-laden breakdown of this movie. We start out, it's like, and we're kind of cutting back and forth between a couple scenes. We have like a rainy car accident night. We have a hospital, and we have Eddie Furlong being very sweaty in his bed.
Sometimes when he's sweaty, he drinks milk, which gets
my God,
that was the grossest part of this movie.
That was the most upsetting part of this movie. One, milk is disgusting. Please.
You just don't want some lukewarm room temperature milk, in the middle of the night when you're having the hot sweats.
Well, I mean, I guess this was like prime parents giving their children milk for some reason.
He has no parents?
Well, yeah, he's just used to it.
Well, spoiler, we're in the rain. So flashback.
Okay, yeah, we're in the rain.
Some kind of accident happened.
And there's a car accident, and you see like little baby Eddie Furlong, his knee's all fucked up, which sort of plays into the plot later, but not really. And he's crawling out of this car accident, and his mother is there. It's not expressed, but we assume that it's his mother, and she's not looking so great. Then we cut to him in the hospital, and they're using paddles and like.
I like that Mike says she's not looking so great. She is clearly face down and dead.
Oh no, she's
it's like mommy,
real bad.
mom. Yeah, it's pretty dark. I mean, it's just, like all jokes aside, it's a pretty serious,
it's
dark
gruesome,
opening.
Yeah. This is like a wear your seatbelt PSA. Like she was thrown clear from the car, but that did not work out in either of their favor. So wear your seatbelts.
Yeah, and something Mike is also noting is, Edward Furlong definitely has psychological damage from the situation. I mean, honestly, who wouldn't, especially if they could remember in that age. But also physically, he now has some kind of limp, and
his knee's all fucked up. So they show you the scars early on. It was like halfway through the movie where he's limping through like a scene. I'm like, why the fuck is he limping?
I know the very same, that it is definitely not a fleshed out story point. At any point in time.
It is not brought up in the movie at all until it becomes a kind of plot point.
Yeah, like if you need to run, now we'll tell you, but up until that point in time, you're pretty much fine.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing that they try to establish, and it totally flops out, is that he's psychologically not okay. He thinks he's less than because he can't compete with the people at school, and he's got to be, more of the weirdo. And I'm going to put that in quotes because he's definitely referenced as the weirdo and the freak later. But it's really a guy that just can't full on sprint. It's not really holding him back for anything until he needs to full on sprint. It's super weird.
Well, there's another plot point with the limp. Did you catch this? We'll talk about it when it happens. Ooh, it'll be fun.
Is that a euphemism?
Maybe.
Okay.
It will be when we get there. So, yeah, like we see that it's established that he was in a car accident. His knee's all fucked up. His mom's dead. Then he wakes up in his sweet fucking dope techno pad.
Yeah, this is the dream of kids. This is the Richie Rich
right.
of all things.
And it is also very like super early to mid 90s telling. Like he is surrounded by Arizona iced tea cans.
Yeah.
He has lab tech speakers for his computer.
Out of anything that he has, that was the most notable. And if anyone doesn't know what the lab tech speakers are, they were like the $15 to $25 pretty much off-white and gridded speakers, or like that weird like gridding up front.
Yeah,
it was
they came
bare
with
bones.
they came with your
8-inch.
Packard Bell computer
Totally.
from 1993.
Totally. And then you go to Babbage's and you're like, I want that in a sack, and someone's like, done. And then we're
A
introduced
sack?
maybe a Babbage's bag.
I don't know what that is.
Just a plastic bag. The old
okay.
Babbage bag.
It's not like a love sack like at the mall. It's not like a bean bag.
This has been brought to you by Lovesack.
Ooh, love sack sponsorship opportunity.
Is that what it's called?
I need a new couch, and I would love a love sack, but they're like $8,000.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the beanie bag store that it's in, I think, Park Meadows Mall.
I don't know.
Isn't it just called like Sack? I'm not joking. I think it's just called SAC. And every time I saw it, I was like, that's strange. And then you walk by and it's a bunch of people laying in beanie bags. And okay.
That actually sounds pretty good.
Beanie bag chairs, that is.
A sponsorship opportunity.
I think it's
Sack.
Lovesack.
No, Lovesack is a sofa store. Yeah, they make dope ass sofas. They're really expensive.
Yeah, we need to look this up.
Okay.
But-
yeah, no.
but-
So he's sitting in his love sack.
And then we were introduced to his best friend Kyle, who I wrote is a B-side Seth Green start to finish. This guy wishes he was Seth Green. Seth Green, you are more than welcome to join us on Rabbit Troop Sucks.
Yeah.
Let's watch a terrible movie. I think you're a great director.
Potentially one that you're in.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, so Seth is at all points in time not Seth, Kyle. Kyle?
Seth Green? Yeah, it's Kyle. Kyle's the friend.
At all points in time, Kyle is wearing at least 17 different flannel shirts all together.
I also later note that there's very clear when there's detectives on the case, they're like, it's summer, and they wouldn't do this. And I was like, whoa, it's summer? I thought this was some kind of like late fall situation, maybe some kind of other area, because there's rain. But yeah, Mike's totally right. Like every single character,
Right.
90s grunge style, is wearing like 17 different
Right.
pieces of clothing. And God, do they must
like
smell like
legitimately, Seth. He's Seth now. He's wearing
Kyle Seth.
He's wearing a flannel like normally you would as a shirt. He's got one wrapped around his waist. He's wearing a leather jacket and then like another flannel shirt around his neck like a tennis player. Seth has so much flannel.
Shout out to Boy Meets World. If you are imagining what we're talking about, it is Ryder Strong's character, 101, Sean Hunter, and like basically a leather jacket, a little bit of doctoring up, and then you've got a flannel and a shirt and maybe a flannel around your waist, and then baggy jeans, and then some kind of generic Vans or, Airwalks or some kind of skate shoes, and then maybe a slanket around you.
I've never seen an episode of Boy Meets World.
I know, Mike.
And I'm never going to.
But if this podcast was sponsored by the Boy Meets World podcast, Pod Meets World, God, yes. Ryder Strong, Will Friedle, reach out to us. Danielle Fisher, yes. Everyone from Boy Meets World, you are more than welcome to be on this podcast. Yes.
I would love to meet you guys.
Fischel, I think Fischel is what it is.
That's official?
I think so. Okay. Danielle Fischel.
That doesn't sound real. Neither is Ryder Strong. That sounds like a made-up name.
Ben Savage isn't even on the
Ryder
podcast.
Strong sounds like the name of a character that Van Damme would play in a movie.
Or you're from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Ryder's a Rohan Strong.
Yes, that's perfect. Okay, so where the fuck are we in this movie?
I'm on page 2 of 12 of notes.
I am 1/3 through my first page. Seth, whatever, they're talking on the phone, right? And Seth's like, bro, there's this dope ass game called Brainscan.
Yeah,
like,
they're reading like Fangora magazine.
yeah, like you ought to check it out. And then Eddie Furlong's like, yeah, that's cool. I need to go to my window and turn on my camcorder and record topless videos of my neighbor, which is super fucking weird.
There's a lot of things to unpack in this situation. So the girl next door is clearly his huge crush.
Right.
One, she looks super young. So now that Mike and I are watching this as adults and not some kind of teen and watching this in the theater, I'm like, oh my God, like this is watching like some girl undress. Like it's kind of awkward. We looked up. I mean, this girl's clearly in her 20s. She was older than Edward Furlong, etc.
I have comments about that later on.
Also, I recognize her in was like 13 Reasons Why plays the main character's mom. And I was like, wow, like I really only know you as an adult. So it's like extra weird to see you, de-age 25 years and like just doing topless scenes. Super, super weird. Also super creepy. There's a lot of creepy moments. We'll get to the detective. That guy's got a slew of creepy moments going on in his back pocket. So
yeah, he's like lusting out the window. At first he's just looking out the window. Then the tits come out. Then he's like, well, if the tits out, I may as well hit record on this camcorder, which is just right there for some reason.
Extra creepy.
And then when he's done recording his fun little scene, he goes to his little TV palace and he is rewatching like the best of this chick taking her shirt off across the street.
Also, she kind of goes to the side and kind of clutches, her shirt, kind of acknowledging, I know he's doing all
There's
of this.
foreshadowing.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's doing this. We have some kind of bond where he films me topless, and that's just the neighborly,
normal neighbor stuff. Right. Just if you didn't grow up in New Jersey, you wouldn't understand.
I guess I'm also laughing at my own handwriting. Mike and I have talked about how sometimes we're writing in the dark, especially if we're watching these movies together.
I can't read anything that I've written down.
So I keep noting Edward Furlong just has initials EF, but it looks like elf sometimes. I'm like, why am I writing about elves?
Well, write what your heart wants. Eddie Furlong decides to call a number to talk to Brainscan, to like the company that the video. I don't know how he got this number. Was that a conversation with Seth?
It was in Fangora magazine.
It was in Fangora magazine.
Like, this game's gonna rock your world. You should see it. It's nothing like you've ever seen. His friend Kyle's like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. And so he calls this random number.
Yeah, and he actually talks to a person. It's not because it's the 90s and there was like only 5 people that called about video games.
I mean, let's just throw that out right now. Can you even imagine in your life right now that to get a video game, you have to call a 1-800 number and talk to someone about it for about 20 minutes, and then they're going to ask you for credit card information, etc. And then they're going to send it to you in the United States Postal Service's mail, and then you'll eventually get it. Imagine that was a life people lived in. I lived it, and so did Mike.
We all did.
We ain't going back.
No, thank God. So yeah, he has this weird conversation with the Brainscan people. And they're like, "Yeah, bro, it's fine. It's great. It's gonna be dope. We're gonna send you this thing." He's like, "Okay, I look forward to that." And then we're the next day at school, and what we find out is like the horror movie club for his high school, which is a thing.
Yeah, this reminds me of the movie Summer School, and maybe we'll watch that in a future summer. But they also have like this horror movie club, and it's really, I don't know, like low key, a bunch of kind of stonery dudes watching horror movies. Principal doesn't like it though.
No, the principal is not excited about it. The principal looks like who's the guy from Saturday Night Live?
Which one?
I don't know. Let's not dwell on that too much. But yeah, the principal comes in. He's like, "What are you guys watching?" They're like, "It's the movie Death, Death, Death Part 2."
I do. There was a big pause though. It was like, "What were you watching?" Death, Death, Death. Principal aghast.
Right. He's like, "Oh fuck, not that."
Part 2.
Like, okay. That checks out. So he turns it off, and I don't remember what he says to him. Just something is like, "You guys are a disappointment to me."
He tries to psychologically analyze him. He's like, "Why do you even watch these things?"
Oh, he looks like Stuart Smalley. That's who he looks like.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, why do you even watch these? So Stuart Smalley's like, why do you even watch these things? Just explain it to me. Edward Furlong is kind of, shocking against this, like almost the shields up. But he opens up, do you really want to know? Yeah, I really want to know. Like, why do you want death? Why do you want these things? And it's clearly, there's a horror club. He feels a rush and various other things. On a side note, I mean, I agree. I love horror movies. Is one of the reasons we started this podcast. Mike and I have watched tons of horror movies.
Yeah.
Tons of awful horror movies. Just note that.
Let's see if we can find Death, Death, Death Part 1 and 2.
I would totally watch that.
Yeah.
There's a fictional movie they watch in the show Parks and Recreation, and they note Death Canoe. And one of the characters notes, in part 4, whatever part, the Death Canoe actually is the hero of the story. And that's all I needed to hear, that if Death Canoe 1 through 4 was ever made, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Also, shout out, I remember one of my favorite birthdays, speaking of weird films, Mike was over at my house and my mother-in-law was visiting. She was, clearly visiting my wife. And we watched Zombievers, and my mother-in-law in the back watched maybe a good 30 minutes of it. And yeah, she was out, but
that movie's got a lot of tits in it.
Yeah. And she's a real trooper with sci-fi and various other things. My mother-in-law is like winning the mother-in-law jackpot. She loves, Fast and Furious movies, a lot of sci-fi movies, but I think that was a little too lowbrow and over the top. But I would totally watch Zombievers again. Maybe on my birthday. We'll just bring it back.
Perfect. Next year, we'll make a plan.
Done.
Yeah, so they're talking, and Eddie Furlong's like, I just like these horror movies. Principal Stuart Smalley's like, it's all about these so I wrote this down, pornographic sex films about getting an erection and doing rapes.
Oh yeah, there was this. Yeah, I do have a couple comments about that.
Yeah, and Eddie's like, I don't even know what you're talking about, old man.
Super weird. Yeah, I mean, cheers to Eddie Furlong.
Yeah, legitimately, he handled that pretty well.
Yeah, it was a super weird and direct thing. It's like, you watch these films and it gets, young boys get erections and then rape people. It was like super awkward, and Edward Furlong immediately is, no,
Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think people do rapes, not those things. What are you talking about? I mean, good Lord. Yeah, that was...
Yeah, it was weird. So Eddie doesn't want to deal with this. He rides his bike home from school. He rides past a car accident or some kind of like traffic incident, and they're
yeah, he's also on like a high-speed scooter. I mean, this is like a $2,000 scooter that he's on.
Oh yeah, he's riding like a motorized, like a Honda Metro or something, because of course he has every amount of money in the world.
Yeah, and no dad, and just a full house, and like.
Well, we find out why there's no dad in a minute. But yeah, he rides past the scene. And he's clearly having some like his own accident flashbacks, and then we have Detective Skeletor. Makes his first appearance. Frank Langella is the detective in this movie.
Frank Langella is the last time I'll reference him as that. I'll either say detective and then I started referencing him as Frank Lestrange.
Okay.
For no reason.
I just have him written down as Detective Skeletor.
Yes. So mind blown. There was a moment in last week's, Highway to Hell. Mike's like, oh my God, I didn't realize the old man was saying nitrous. That was like the hidden thing that Christy Swanson finds out the nitrous panel is there. That's the way to get out of hell. Mm-hmm. Mike told me that Frank Lestrange is Skeletor in the Dolph Lundgren He-Man movie, and my effing mind exploded. I cannot believe I did not know that is who played Skeletor this whole time. Will we ever watch the He-Man movie? I hope not, because it's, why would you do that to me? I mean, if you want pain, you could watch it on your own and think your own mental thoughts. But to note that he was Skeletor, I can't believe it, Mike. Can't believe I've been walking around like I've known things about films and little trivia quips.
That hasn't even been. Well, see, I guess I'm on the opposite side of the fence there. I don't want to do the He-Man movie because I think it's just too good. I think the movie is just better than everything that we've watched. I don't think it's going to be fun to clown on because it's just such a high quality film.
This might be the last episode.
and then here's the conclusion. We've done 10. Rabbit Troop Sucks is over. Okay, so he rides past the accident. He sees Detective Skeletor. He now has received his snail mail package of the Brainscan CD.
Yay.
And we have a voicemail. We have an answering machine message from his father, who's like, hey, yeah, sorry I'm on this like nondescript business trip where I'll be gone for an undetermined amount of time. I hope you enjoy having technology in your house. Love ya. And that's literally the only time we hear from his father.
And then he learns the rules of Brainscan. So Brainscan is this movie title, but it's also the name of the film. And we read some trivia that it was also loosely based on some kind of video game. So
yeah, within the context of this movie, I was never sure whether it was supposed to be a video game or a movie because he puts it into a computer.
Yeah, and Mike notes it's like shock mounted and like those like
You know, like the cartridge CD-ROM where you have to put it in like a tray first and then into the CD drive.
That
There's no
seems
like
terrible.
there's no motorized thing drawer coming out of it. Yeah, so that was a fun flashback. But yeah, but he puts it into a computer CD-ROM drive. But he doesn't play it. There's no controller. He just sits down and watches it.
Yeah, like much like most things, looking back at this film, it's like, oh, he's talking to his, virtual assistant butler, Igor, all these things he could do. I mean, this does prophesize the future a little bit as far as what the technology, it's not super Black Mirror-esque, but it's, this is where the technology is going to some extent, and at least we see it now. And I always thought that was cool, clearly if I had unlimited money and all this technology, that'd be awesome. But he pops in this game and he learns the rules, and the rules are pretty simple. You need to think like a killer. It was also noted that this game was tailored to him, that there are other games, but this would be his game. So he needs to, quote unquote, enjoy the fear. A 60-minute timer loads up, and he basically is told there will be 4 discs. This is the first of 4. You need to complete these missions in order to do this. And on the first couple of discs, just to highlight and speed it along a little bit, he's given a different perspective, which I actually know what I like, but this movie cannot pick a lane on what it wants to do. So the first couple discs he plays, especially we'll start with the first one, we are just now thrown into a third-person perspective. We do not see Edward Furlong's body. His character's name is Michael. We don't see his body. We don't see anything outside of like his hands and his movements. Going to the 90s, very Wolfenstein, very Doom.
Yeah.
He's moving around. And I noted that I appreciated the VR, or the lack of virtual reality, this kind of concept. There's no CG or any of
there's
these things.
minimal effects,
and I like it,
which is that's nice, because when they do throw it in, it sucks.
Yeah, that is totally true, and I do feel this movie holds up at this point in time because you're like, okay, so you're just playing this character. Okay, we get it. Maybe it's a little low budget. Maybe the camera work would be different. Whatever. It still holds up because it's not just super dated. Mike is totally correct. When it gets dated, it sucks.
Yeah, so he's now. We're in kind of like the first person video game view. He's in some guy's house, and you're wondering like, okay, is this the game or the movie that he's watching? Like whatever the fuck this is.
When I go destination to destination, I try to underline a couple things, and I wrote some guy's house. And that is what I wrote.
He is in some guy's house. Then he grabs a knife and then he walks to the bedroom, and this guy who in the movie they later on explained that he was 42, which makes me feel better about my life because this guy looked like shit and he's my age.
I also noted a similar comment.
But he has a really nice house.
Yeah, I was like, I hate when I note like how someone looks or, like their aesthetics or whatever. I noted once, I think early on in this season, quote unquote, of Rabbit Troop Sucks, that Cliff, was it John like Ratzenberger?
Yeah.
He was like in his early 30s when he started Cheers, and I was like, that makes me feel better. I totally get what Mike's saying. What was it? They said he was 42.
I think so. Yeah. He looked like my dad. Basically.
Yeah. Well, I was like, whoa, my God. Like, whoa, 42 in like 1850. Like, what?
Right.
He died of dysentery.
But anyway, Eddie Furlong has like a voice in his head, and it's like, do it, just do it. You want to do it. You got to do it. So he just stabs the fuck out of this guy.
I wrote that, and then I wrote brutal, stabs him to death. Kind of comes to.
Yeah.
Looks at the screen. He's got 9.5 minutes left on his 60-minute timer.
Oh yeah, did we explain that he had a timer to do this? And I think you did.
I might have. Sorry, yeah. And then I just wrote, level up, bro.
He levels up. So the guy kind of comes to, he gets stabbed again. He's also wearing what looked like pretty comfy pajamas. I would have these pajamas.
I mean, someone could reach out, like Me Undies or something. You want us to talk about things. I mean, it's just 2 guys sitting in pajamas talking about Brainscan. Like, I don't see what's wrong
I mean,
with
they
that.
were like silk kind of brocade. I'd fuck with that. So he double stabs this guy, and then we pan down to this guy's foot, and he has a tattoo on it, which looks like a snake around a knife or something. And you're thinking like, oh man, there's going to be some kind of, they're going to call out to that.
Snakes. I don't know. No snakes.
Like, I don't know snakes. The tattoo is never mentioned. Like, this is not an important. They focus on it several times, and
they focus on more of a missing foot throughout the movie,
right?
And less about the tattoo.
The tattoo is never important. But anyway, he cuts his foot off and takes it with him, and then then like we cut back and Eddie Furlong is back in his bedroom.
Oh yeah, so he's now in full fever dream hot sweats moment.
Yeah.
And the first thing he reaches for is the glass of milk that has been sitting by him for at least 50 minutes. I mean, if he poured it right before this game, that's the time limit. I'm assuming a lot longer. This guy's a total slob. You've seen his apartment, attic, house units, and that milk's been there for a while. It's so gross to watch. This episode of Rabbit Troop Sucks is not brought to you by milk.
No, milk is the worst. No one should be drinking it. Just stop with it. That's my take on milk.
Anchorman told you not to drink milk on hot day.
Well, honestly, like the way Eddie Furlong takes down this glass of milk, it is like Anchorman. Like it's running down his chin.
Oh, it's
he's pouring it on his head. Like it's like a Gatorade commercial.
Yeah, and then it shows like 15-year-old facial scruff a little, so it's like very
it's little peach fuzz.
Yeah, and there's still milk on it. You'll be haunted. You'll be haunted more by milk than you will be of the demon in this movie, the Trickster.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a second. So after he drinks the fucking milk, he tries to load the game again because he's like, this is weird. I'm going to load up this game, but it doesn't work. The game doesn't work.
Yeah, because it goes to static.
It goes to static. The phone number that he called,
the dial-up modem phone number.
Yeah, it doesn't work. So then he goes to the neighbor's house to talk to this girl.
Well, let's backtrack for one quick second.
Okay.
If anyone is ever listening to Rabbit Troop Sucks, which you totally should, it should be the religion that you follow because, two guys watch some weird movies and just report back. I mean, what fun could that be? Amazing fun. So Mike and I were talking, this idea of dial-up modems, talking about computers. I was like, you know what? We should do Hackers sometime. We have a lot of friends who love the movie Hackers. I loved Hackers, but the more I read it and delve into Hackers, a lot of people have not seen Hackers. Going back to one of the movies Mike and I referenced, Mike did not see Free Jack, and I was like, oh, I watched this at a sleepover or something like this. I really feel some of these movies were regional. I saw Hackers in the theater. I saw Hackers twice in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Did you see it in the theater?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I mean,
I've seen Hackers 8,000 times in my life.
I think it's like free on YouTube. Like legitimately, I think that was one of YouTube's first free movies was Hackers. But maybe we should do that. So if you are listening and you want us to, cover Hackers at some point in time, we have a whole crew of people that would join us, much like hacking the Gibson at the end of Hackers. We're going to get all the hackers united to talk about Hackers. But bringing us back to this weird 90s technology, which made me think of Hackers. Yeah, we're going to meet the secondary character of this movie here in a second.
Yeah, he goes to I don't know why he goes to the neighbor girl's house, but he does. He knocks on the door and her parents are like, oh yeah, okay, come in to talk to our daughter. She's upstairs, like doing whatever. And while he's
they're also like super put off that anyone even rang the doorbell. Like,
yeah, they did not
ding dong, and like the father is just put off.
Yeah, he seems uncool with this. But they're watching TV, and he sees now the murder report for the murder that we're now piecing together that he committed last night, and he flips his shit. He's like, "Oh my god, that seems like a thing that I did. Tell her I'll come back." So he runs over to I guess he recognizes the house. He only had an hour to do it, so it couldn't have been that far from his place. And I think does he see his bike leaning up against the garage? Is that because they zeroed in on a bike? Was that his?
It might have been. He also owns a scooter too, so like an
who
electric
knows?
scooter.
He's got a lot of means of conveyance. So they zoom in on
they
the
do
bike.
say he's 16. He probably has access to daddy's 5 cars or whatever.
Yeah, he's got a lot of options. He makes eyes with Lieutenant Skeletor again, and then he runs home. And at home, he goes to his refrigerator and he finds the foot that he cut off. It's in the refrigerator.
Yeah, there's something that he remembers and is like, in the in-game, it was hide it, foot, like in your most personal place. And his most personal private place is the refrigerator in his bedroom.
Right. So he goes back and he finds that.
And loads up Primus.
He puts on the Primus. No, the Trickster put on Primus when.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So now that I don't know if he turns the TV on or if it just turns on of its own volition, but TV's on, and now like we see like the Brainscan head logo, but it starts coming out of the TV like the Ring.
I also noted the Ring. I was like Ringu style.
Goddamn right. It is Ringu style. And then out pops the fucking Trickster, who looks like the guitar player from a goth band that we used to play with, but with cooler hair. And he pops out and he puts in Pork Soda by Primus and starts explaining kind of what his deal is to Eddie Furlong.
I do want to note that I read that this whole soundtrack, there's like Primus, a lot of metal bands, kind of a lot of thrash metal. It came out in April of 1994. I was like, that has got to be rough. It was at the back end of April. This movie came out in March of 1994, and that is right after Kurt Cobain commits suicide. And I feel if you were listening to any rock music trying to compete with anything that's happening, especially in those months, good luck. So this probably is a rationale in my mind why this movie is a little more obscure. Even like or dislike this film, I do think this could have projected upwards Edward Furlong a little more, but I mean, as noted, Mike never heard or have seen this movie.
It was in theaters for 2 weeks, according to IMDb.
I get it.
I mean, I get it because it sucks, regardless of the music. Yeah. Okay. So
wait, yeah, this is a real Little Monsters moment. So yeah, Trickster pops out. My name is the Trickster. He's poking his eyes out. If you ever watch Little Monsters, it's very similar. In Little Monsters, it's lighthearted, and this is more, I'm gouging my eyes out. I'm pretending to bleed. Haha, I can't gouge my eyes out. I'm a demon. They're back. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, we're in it together, boy. You need to play through all the discs.
Yeah,
and
so
we'll get through it.
So he's like, there's 4 discs. You got to play through all of them. There is a witness. So like that'll be addressed in the second disc. You can't stop now because there's a witness. They're going to find you. And he's highlighting. Yeah, you're right. He tries to stab his eyes out. He's highlighting that like he's some kind of weird being.
I'm going to take this movie in discs. I am in for this movie for disc 1 and 2. And then when we get to 3 and 4, just no one cares and they're trying to wrap up the movie. I feel that's kind of what's going on.
Yeah, that's fair. So, fuck. Okay.
Well, I have that he runs to the woods to bury a
He
foot.
runs to the woods to bury the foot. And then while he's burying the foot, a heckin' good boy, what was it? A German Shepherd.
Yeah.
It just like pops out of nowhere, grabs the foot and runs off. He does eventually get the foot back and buries it, but the dog, we'll see the dog
A couple more times. Dog's really jamming him up.
He is, yeah. Well, he's doing his best. The dog is not the best actor in this movie.
Yeah. I even had the dog's name at some point in time. I'm like, this is not Ben the dog.
No.
This is not the cat from American Rickshaw.
No, God, no. So now we're back at home. Eddie Furlong is burning his clothing in the fireplace. That's foreshadowing something for later. And then Seth Green shows up wearing his 27 flannel shirts again. What's his name? Not Seth Green.
Kyle
Seth.
And then I also have Kim comes back to the house, and that's the neighborly love interest.
Yeah.
The neighbor love interest.
So he kind of shuffles off Seth Kyle, and he's kind of a dick to him because Kyle just wants Brainscan because he wants to experience it. And Eddie's like, fuck you, bro. There's some middle fingers exchanged. Then the neighbor chick shows up, and she's got the homework.
Yeah, she's like, why did you even come to my house? We don't have any classes together. I don't know.
He's like, well, whatever.
I don't know. Got brain scanned.
Yeah. And so as she rolls up, the mail is there with her, and there's the new brain scan disc.
The neighbor's doing it all. I do know she grabs the mail, then has homework, and I was like, does she have the mail? And then she gives him the homework, and she's like, I also got your mail. I was like,
right.
Damn.
This chick is down. She's like into Eddie Furlong. But he's not cool. He's freaking out. He smashes the disc. The chick leaves. Then our Trickster buddy appears. Have you seen him in anything?
I've not. The one piece of trivia I thought that was interesting out of all the trivia that we read was he is also the voice of Igor, which is his, virtual assistant on his computer, and he was just uncredited. We
haven't talked about Igor, have we?
No, but you'll see it as an image.
It is highlighted on our podcast.
Yeah.
So this guy, I didn't know who he was going into it. I
still don't.
I will say I know him as a voice actor just because I'm familiar with a couple things that he did. He was a prominent voice actor in the BioShock series of games, which I'm a big fan of. He was also Baron Underbite in Venture Brothers.
Oh wow!
So that's what I know him from. But he just, for some reason, he looked familiar to me. But maybe it's just because I was thinking about the VHS cover from Little Monsters.
That's fair.
So yeah, the Trickster pops up again.
Yeah, he's basically like, "Oh, you didn't trash this, but I have another disc."
Right, it's like, I got another one.
There's always options.
Fuck you, you got to do it.
And he basically just says, again, there's a witness. You need to take care of this. Vanishes. And then Edward Furlong comes up with this idea. He's like, I'm going to film myself.
He's going to record it, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I'm 16. I'm scared to death. This, if this proves I've killed someone, then this is a confession, but I'm going to show you what's going on. So it's like, Igor, dial it up. Beep, 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 beep. And then all of a sudden, and then he's, dialed into the baud modem that is, which is unfortunate.
Right.
And he's now playing Brainscan.
We don't see him play Brainscan this time.
Yeah, we don't. And that's kind of why I'm in for disc 1 and 2. Disc 1, we saw this very third person, a fighting weird scene of horror. This version, we don't even see him. And you see what's left on the screen is 7 minutes and 30 seconds.
Right.
And I was like, was he only in it for that? I think he was in it for closer to an hour. And that's what's left.
He had 45 minutes for this one. So he had 60 for the first one, 45. He has less and less time.
That makes sense because the spoiler, the very last disc is 15 minutes.
Yeah, which seems like it takes way longer, but that's whatever.
But he's still doing it with ample time left.
Yeah, no, he's killing it. He's really good at this.
Yeah.
So he kind of comes to again, and he's still in his seat, and he sees that he has a couple minutes left. And he checks the tape, and all it shows is like him reading his little confession at the beginning and then leaving. And so he's like, you know what? I better check the fucking freezer because that's where the foot was. And he does it, and there's a necklace in there. And I don't think we've seen the necklace before, but it belonged to Kylo Seth.
And funny enough, I also note, whose necklace is this? What is this? Who did he kill? And then later on, I pieced together that, oh, that was his necklace because someone says something. And then I think there's even a flashback later in the film, sort of, where it's like, oh, it's my necklace, bro. Like, I never go anywhere without it or something along those lines. But yeah, it was more, the next day we learned straight up Kyle's dead. And that was his necklace.
Yeah.
You're just told that directly.
Right. So the Trickster is now admitting this to him. He's like, you know what? There wasn't really a witness. But like he knows you too well. He would have said something.
Yeah, that was a weird movie. He's like, he didn't really see you do anything, but psychologically,
right? Like
he knew you were capable.
He would have figured it out. Yeah. And then the doorbell rings, and it's Lieutenant Skeletor.
Oh yeah.
And the Trickster's like, don't answer the door. But
good advice.
But he does answer the door.
Bad
advice.
Yeah.
And now Lieutenant Skeletor and his little sidekick are in the house, and they're kind of like, they're not being dicks about it, but they're kind of questioning what's his name,
Michael or Edward Furlong. But
yeah,
one note is, yeah, they're clearly, you've seen it in many other movies. They're just like scoping out the place, like what's around the fireplace, what's around the couch.
They're highlighting
is there
the
any
fireplace.
Evidence? But these cops also come and go from Edward Furlong's house throughout the entirety of the film.
So I have multiple notes about this. Just this scene alone has, and like we'll have to consult the Rabbit Troop Sucks legal counsel.
Well, I said it was like making a murderer,
but this seems like highly illegal. You're questioning a minor by himself in his house, like with no warrant. I mean, that seems not okay.
Right. So even if that was maybe allowed, later on the cops are just freely coming in and out of the house. There's no warrants, nothing's even said. So yes, there's a lot of making a murderer situations. Like, we're going to pin it on this kid. We later are going to learn how your peers think you're a freak, and I'm totally coming back.
Yeah, so he's
it's here. You're the class misfit.
You're the class misfit. Yeah, he's like, I talk to your friends. Like, they're not your friends. Like, they think you're a big fucking weirdo.
I talked to some guy that you don't know.
Yeah. And they kind of leave him they leave a bad taste in his mouth, but they leave.
Well, they leave, and that's when I know, like, one of the cops says, it's summer and something like something. I'm like, summer? Like, again,
right. Everyone's wearing jackets.
Yeah, like lots of jackets.
Yeah. And in New Jersey at this time of year, it's humid.
I would imagine it's humid throughout America and Canada.
So Eddie Furlong goes back upstairs, and of course, fucking the Trickster's there. He's eating a raw chicken, and the place is just trashed.
Yeah, again, a full raw chicken.
Like a full raw chicken, yeah. And they have a little bit of an exchange. It's kind of heated. And eventually the Trickster grabs Eddie Furlong's hand and he cuts it. And the blood drips onto a table and turns...
Lot of blood.
A lot of blood. Turns into the third disc.
As it does. Again, this was every parent's nightmare. If you play this and you bleed, you will bleed into a third disc.
You'll bleed a CD-ROM disc that will lead you
Daddy can't have a third disc.
Right. And Eddie Furlong's like, bro, this fucking sucks. Like, I just killed my best friend. I don't want to do this. Like, I'm clear, like, just whatever.
What's noted is, don't worry, this one you won't do any killing. You just got to get rid of the footprints in the mud.
The footprints, and this is the only time where his goddamn limp is mentioned, because Eddie Furlong goes like, oh, my limp. Like, and
yeah, that would cause like a different like impression into the mud.
Like, honestly, so I'm glad you said that, because that was the first thing that I had in my mind as well. Like, you think the depressions would be different, right? Because I've seen like CSI and like whatever stupid crime shows. Like, yeah, the limp footprints are different. Do they mention that again in this movie? No, they do not.
Also, let's just get into it. He puts in the third disc, and then now we're no longer in third person. That's why I said I liked disc 1 and 2. Disc 1, you're kind of in this, or I'm sorry, first person. Disc 1, you're in this first person situation. You only see his hands, kind of like playing a video game. Part 2, disc 2, you don't even see him, so it's not weird. Disc 3, straight up, he knows who he is. He's running around, and now we're just shown this scene like it's normally in the film.
Right.
He's just walking in, and you've got to get rid of these footprints. He basically uncovers a very thin tarp and just rubs his hands over them. Mm-hmm. And right. I wrote all around that when these cops have pictures of this, when there be other things, maybe. These cops, no. Would normal cops? Yes.
So now, and I think this is still in the same disc arena.
Disc 3?
Disc 3. We now cut to him like making out pretty hard with the neighbor girl.
But it's a dream.
But no, it definitely is a dream. But like that's where he is. The neighbor girl's apologizing, and so I had written down that this is kind of troubling because we brought up earlier, like in the first 3 minutes of this movie, this chick's tits come out. So she's 24, 25. The actress is. Eddie Furlong is 16 years old in this movie. Yep. Like his character and also him as a person.
Yeah, it was noted that he was the youngest of all of his peers.
Right. If there was a movie that came out today where a 24, 25-year-old man was making out with a 16-year-old girl, the world would catch on fire. But this is fine because this is 1994.
That's called Disc 3 of America.
Right. And also, Eddie Furlong was probably cool. She's an all right looking lady.
Yeah, so this all turns out to be a dream, and it turns out to be a zombie, the first guy he killed. He wakes up, and then Kim is at the door. And I have that something's happening. Oh, while this is happening, or she's at the door or something, I don't even know. One of the cops is back in Furlong's house, going through the fireplace.
Skeletor is scooping like ashes out of the fireplace, which is again, I'm sure, highly illegal.
I noted highly illegal in quotes, and I quoted Mike as we're watching it. We normally aren't talking all too much. We take a couple breaks, but Mike just said that is highly illegal, and I could not agree more.
Yeah, and now we have. I don't really know what was going on with this scene. We have Skeletor, Lieutenant Skeletor is outside with like a mob who all are armed.
Yeah, I also have some confusion here. So I noted that it seems like he's getting the neighbors together.
Yeah, he's like forming a vigilante posse here.
And it seems like he's very much pinpointing it's Edward Furlong. Like we've got this weirdo and some things. Maybe that was just in my own mind, but there seems heavy-handed allusions because later Mike says, in a quote that I have from Mike, weren't they looking specifically for Edward Furlong?
I thought they were.
And I think sort of.
But maybe not.
I think Edward Furlong thinks that, but they're not. They just think someone's on the loose. It is very questionable.
It is questionable. So then we cut to the inside of someone's house.
Some kind of like construction site?
Well, we have the Lieutenant Skeletor's sidekick is in a house. No, he's in
Kyle's house.
He's in Kyle's house, and the Trickster calls and is like, "Hey, there's someone creeping outside of the house. I think it's the suspect."
This is also confusing for me because it's still like kind of this punk rock teen house. So I thought
Right.
it was Edward Furlong's again. It's a computer.
Right. Well,
again, Aerosmith posters.
They have the same Aerosmith posters, the same Arizona Ice
and
Tea
Kim
cans.
does. All three of the teens have these same Aerosmith poster.
Well, that big Aerosmith.
yeah,
presence
computers
in
and
this
stuff
movie.
like that. Yeah, it's just in disarray.
So they go outside. They're looking for this guy. Eddie Furlong is in fact outside,
Yes.
but he hides in the bushes. And the cop comes up and shines the light, but
And the dog comes.
doesn't see him. Does the dog come?
Wasn't it the dog comes up and runs off?
No. So like the cop goes away, and then he hears like a branch cracking, and then he goes back, and it's a raccoon.
That's right. And then there's a jogger with the German Shepherd that comes by later, and the dog sniffs him, and the jogger's like, "Hey, what's
Right.
going on?" But they don't see Edward Furlong. The dog's back.
The raccoon in this movie was the best actor, though.
I recently saw a raccoon. I just told this to Mike.
Yeah, earlier today, Paul had to fight a raccoon.
I thought it was a cat from a distance, then it came hissing at me. So
I didn't see it happen, but in my mind, it was exactly like in Elf, where you were trying to hug it and it attacked you.
Denver, let's get together on this raccoon situation that we've got going on. I do not want to fight a raccoon.
I would like Paul to fight a raccoon.
The world wants me to fight a raccoon.
That's when we're going to do a video live stream of Rabbit Troop Sucks.
Come on.
Okay, so yeah, so he doesn't get caught in the bushes. The jogger and the dog are kind of hanging out,
And then he runs. Is this when he runs into the other cop?
Yeah, no, he runs into Stuart Smalley. Principal Stuart Smalley catches him, and then the vigilantes come up and for some reason kill Stuart Smalley.
Oh, that's right. So the vigilantes are all up in arms, like, "Oh, there's someone around." And then Stuart Smalley rolls up.
Oh wait, no,
And-
I had my notes all wrong.
Well,
Carry on.
He says something along the lines of like, "I'm a police," and you hear it, and they shoot him. The mob turns on the cop, and they're like, "Oh, whoops!"
There was a bit that we missed though. So Stuart Smalley catches Chuckles, whatever the fuck his name is,
Edward Furlong.
Edward Furlong, and like they get into a tussle, and because you're right, they're in a construction site. They fall through like a floor,
and a bunch of literally a ton of bricks falls on top of this guy.
Stuart Smalley gets killed by a ton of bricks, and Edward Furlong runs the fuck away, and then we have the vigilante mob investigating, and then like the real cop,
The other cop, yeah.
Skeletor's sidekick, comes around. He's like, "Oh, hey guys, what's going on?"
And they shoot him.
and the vigilante mob just shoots the fuck out of him.
And then Edward Furlong runs off and runs into another cop, and the cop's like, "Hey, did you know?
There's a killer around. You got to get out of here, bro."
But he's like, "We just shot him. You got to get out of here." And that's when Mike said, "Aren't they specifically looking for him?" And I thought the same. I thought they were looking for Edward Furlong. I think again that's supposed to be all in Edward Furlong's head, that he thinks everyone's out to get him,
Right.
And they should be, but I guess it's all part of the game, like the game with Michael Douglas. I'd watch that movie.
Oh shit! No,
Okay, Rabbit Troop Suck is apparently not gonna not.
no,
gonna listen.
I'll watch the game with Michael Douglas.
I like it.
Didn't he get a?
Douglas.
He got no. He was the one that got throat cancer from eating out Catherine Zeta-Jones too many times, right?
I don't have that.
You can
in my
edit
notes.
that out if you want.
I don't have that in my notes.
Okay, so God damn it, Eddie Furlong is now running home.
Oh yeah, I have where we go next is I just wrote not a game, all crimes. I think he's yelling at the Trickster.
Yeah, he
Oh,
gets
yeah,
home.
yeah,
The Trickster's there,
He's
and
like, it's not a game, it's all crimes. It's all crimes.
it's all crimes.
Too many crimes.
It's too many sleep crimes is what this is.
And then he's like, there's another witness. And if you've played a lot of video games that Mike and I have over the years, I'm sick of there's always been another. Got to go back to the cave. Got to get another witness.
That goddamn princess with her fucking cave, leaving all of her shit back there.
17 times. Got to go back to the cave. Well, boom, you got another witness, and you know who she is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's Kimberly. I'm just going to cut to the chase. It's totally Kimberly.
Is Kimberly the neighbor girl's name?
Yes.
Because I don't think I ever knew that.
Kimberly.
Okay, yeah. So this is now we're presumed to be in the fourth disc.
Well, right before we get there, we do see the cops pull up. So Frank Lestrange pulls up to a cop car, and they give him this handoff, and there's this note, and it highlights that, one, they have the phone record. So it was Edward Furlong that made this call to Kyle's house, if we didn't bring this up.
I don't think we brought that up. It
doesn't
was
even matter.
inconsequential.
Yeah,
No
it
one
was just
cares
like,
about
all right,
this.
who called this house? It was him. But there's also some blood samples And they're highlighting that. I just don't know where they got that from. I totally maybe missed that. I mean, we take notes throughout, but
Yeah, I don't know that we missed anything. I mean, I'm sure we missed some things, but this movie sucks and doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so
now we're back with the trickster.
now we're back. Well, he's in Kimberly's house and he grabs some scissors to like stab her, but then he doesn't want to. And then the trickster shows up.
Yes.
Yeah, am I right?
Yeah, it's basically, so he's like, you're going to go into the fourth disc. You've got to go kill her. Again, it's not first person. It's just watching
we're
Edward
just watching
Furlong
it now,
walking
yeah.
along. He goes to Kim's house, opens the door because everyone has open doors. No one locks
In New
anything
Jersey in
minutes.
the 80s, you
Yeah,
didn't
totally.
lock doors, yeah.
90s. Even
90s,
worse.
yeah. Oh, yeah, especially not that.
And then I also know, like, he has some scissors. He gets this from some bowl.
Right, they're
you
like
know,
knitting scissors. The next were like
when
crocheting kit.
Yeah, I mean, you have some killing implements upon foyer entrances.
Right.
So, I mean, and then Micah's right that he noted before that we have 15 minutes on this disc. You've
Yeah,
got to
only
kill her
15
quick.
minutes. He's got to plow through this. So he goes to the room and he's like, I don't want to stab her because like in the last disc we were gonna bang.
And we see she has an Aerosmith poster.
She has an
Just to
Aerosmith
confirm.
poster. I think she had a couple, to be honest.
She still does.
And then the trickster, he's like having second thoughts. The trickster pops in behind him and he's like, they have a conversation that kind of culminates in like, I'm you. The trickster is me.
And then they kind of mesh together a little bit.
So Eddie Furlong stabs the trickster in the stomach, and now we have the only thankful CGI in this movie, which fucking sucks, where
They're
they're kind of like melding together, and then it kind of ends with the trickster like eating him like a snake, like his jaw unhinges and he just like starts chomping down on his body. And I don't.
Well, then I have Edward Furlong looks half burnt. He just has like it's like Two-Face from Batman. He's got the burnt side. And
No, yeah, so the trickster eats him, and they kind of like fall to the floor, and we're kind of watching this from the girl's perspective in bed, and then Eddie Furlong pops up from the bed, and yeah, he has weird like Two-Face face, and the girl's like, I don't care what you did, I love you, I just love you.
and then Trickster's like she's just saying that to stay alive. No,
right?
I've always
no,
loved
she's
you.
like, no, I take pictures of you too. Like we're
And
both,
it shows
we're both
that,
weird
they do
birds.
see that. Like, she's been spying on you too, bro.
Yeah. And then it's like game over, man. Because that's what I wrote down, and I don't know if anything happened in between there.
Then nothing happened. So okay, she's like, no, and then there's a tussle. So then Edward Furlong wakes up, and it's some kind of like Wizard of Oz moment. He's like, it's all a dream, like everything's great. And Kyle's back alive. Kyle's outside, like, hey,
Oh yeah,
bro.
no, like he wakes up and it's like after disc 1. Like all of this has been from 1 through 4 has been a dream.
It's all in his head.
Yeah, so Seth Kyle is outside. They're fucking stoked. Everyone's really excited, and it was kind of, I don't think we talked about this, but like when he put disc 1 in,
Kim was having a party.
Kim was
next
having
door.
a party next
And
door.
this is when he was feeling less than. He was like,
Right,
no,
he's like,
I can never be with
he's
Kim.
not going to bang Kim, so he goes into this disc. But now, like, he looks out the window, the party's still going on. So he's like, hey, Seth Green, Kyle, we should go to this party. I'm going to ask out Kimberly. And Seth Green is like, fuck yeah, bro. You're going to ask her.
They run into Kim's friend Stacy, and then Kyle's like, Stacy, you're really cute. And she's like, really? Or like, have you ever thought about being in a video or something? She's like, video? Like, I'd love to be in a video.
Seth Kyle is, side note, in the future, I will try to like not refer to each character as 14 different names.
We had Sherbert before. Sherbert lives on.
Sure. Well, I mean, I feel like I was at least consistent with Sherbert. I'll try in the future. I'll try to make this less.
Oh
confusing.
yeah, so we get to almost a climax of the film of well, I would say the hero's journey.
Yeah.
And so Michael, Edward Furlong, gets to Kim's room and he's like, hey, I wanted to ask you out. Do you want to go out sometime?
And she's like, no.
Yeah.
Just straight up.
She's like,
no.
I don't know, but I'll think about it. She's just broken up with this other dude, Taylor.
Right.
And-
Taylor, we can see in the background vomiting in the bathroom.
Right. And so he's like, you're saying there's a chance. And she's like, sure.
Right.
And
1 in a million.
That's
right.
kind of how it ends. Like that relationship and that story arc is now over. She may or may not go out with him.
Right, but
gives him a quick quick kiss.
Gives him a quick kiss, and she just leaves him in her bedroom.
Well, she's also like, I've got to go tend to this killer party that's happening
There's
in my
like
front yard.
8,000 people at her house for some reason, because no one
has parents. Yeah, no one has parents in this movie.
But what he does see that on her nightstand are actual
That's right.
pictures of him.
Like,
So like
she's been spying too.
so she has that wasn't just part of Brainscan. She's actually spying. So they're both huge
Everyone was
perverts.
Brainscan. Oh yeah, there was a scene with Frank Lestrange in the background where I said, they're making out. This is before they're making out, and I just said he's standing in the doorway like some kind of pervert.
Yes, that's accurate.
But really, we get the last two scenes right after this. So
Well, credits roll, but then we have another scene. Right
we have two.
Okay.
It's before the credits roll. So Edward Furlong gets the kiss. He's super happy.
Principal Stuart Small.
Yeah, the last scene before this bonus scene is now they're back at school. They're back at the horror club, and Edward Furlong's got a new lease on life, like a little jump in his giddy up,
little skip in his. Did you say the horror club?
The horror?
Horror. Okay.
Maybe I did. Who knows? I mean, we know what this was. And the principal, said, I want to see all your stuff in the future. I'm going to screen in. He's like, well, I got this new video game. He's like, video game? Well, that's
so
different.
it is a video game.
It is a video
that
game.
you don't play. You just watch like a weirdo.
Well, maybe. Who knows what's happening?
Yeah,
He's
okay.
like, but he's like, you go edit it, and then the trickster appears, and he's like, ha, 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 and it's all going to be good times. And somehow Edward Furlong's in the joke because he sees the trickster.
Like Edward Furlong is just laughing. Like the trickster appears in the principal's chair. Yeah, and he's like, ha, ha, ha.
We're going to have a good time.
Buddy.
And then boom, credits roll.
Yeah.
You thought. And then we get a bonus scene where that German shepherd is still lurking around with a foot in its mouth, and it brings it, I believe, to Edward Furlong's front door and just leaves it there.
That's what it looked like.
And then the credits roll. And then you probably get some kind of metal music, and it's like, woo, Brainscan.
Maybe, woo, Brainscan. So that's a call out to something that none of you are here for. So that's great.
Yeah, what's your views on Brainscan, Mike?
Well, so did he actually kill the 42-year-old ugly man? Because the foot's there? Is there a Brainscan too that we can watch?
I hope not.
Yeah, I also hope not. My feelings on Brainscan, I don't like Eddie Furlong as an actor.
Sure.
I don't like anyone in this movie as an actor except for Frank Langella because he's dope. I don't know. I thought this movie was weird. Like I'm not upset about watching it. I never need to see this movie again. I don't know.
The notes I have on this are throughout, my own notepad, etc. I don't really mind Edward Furlong as an actor. I know a lot of people don't. I'm fine with him in Terminator 2. Terminator 2 is such an awesome film. I mean, come on. It's more about the film than anything else. The film and Linda Hamilton just kicking ass all throughout.
Well, yeah, and Budnick from Salute My Shorts was way better than Eddie Furlong.
His friend?
Because he had the motorcycle friend, yeah.
And the other note I have is, looking back at Brainscan, I just felt when I saw this movie, as I said, I saw it in the theater, and I idolized, I want this room, and I want this technology, and it would be cool. Like, the girl you like lives next door. Imagine anyone you like, any person you feel, kinship to and a romantic feeling, regardless of your orientation, that person lives next door and you're younger. That seems like accessible. Your world is small. And I kept noting that all throughout my notepad, that my world was so small. My perspective of all things were so small. Literally my dream at the time when I saw this movie was, wouldn't it be cool if I lived next door to like someone I thought was cute and I had a cool bedroom? That was like my view.
I'll buy into that. Like, I mean, obviously I hadn't seen this movie until tonight. If I had seen this movie, so when this movie came out in 1994, I would have been 13, 14 years old. 100%. Like, his room was what I wanted my life to be. If there was like hot neighbor tits that I could videotape, I feel like I probably wouldn't have done that because I wasn't a weird perv.
But then you find out she was doing that to you.
Well, if we had an agreement, maybe.
As you do in the 90s.
Yeah, so if I had seen this movie like in a time appropriate way, like I'm sure I would have been more stoked on it because, like, yeah, like that's aside from the video game murdering, I think that's what would have been my like idealized life. Like, I have a dope house, I have no parents for some reason. Yeah, like all that sounds pretty good. But like, again, like I saw this movie as a man in his 40s who was uncomfortable by weird assumed teenage nudity.
Yeah, the only anger I have on this film is not from the director or writers. It's just really the backlash and evolution of thoughts and the process of things. I am sure parents rallied around this film. See, this is what could happen. You're a parent, or in this case, unfortunately, you're a single parent. You're going on trips. This kid's left alone. There's money. This kid's going to be a serial killer. And this kid's playing video games. Do you know this kid's listening to metal music and playing video games? And I'm sure parents rallied around this. Again, I'm sure the director maybe picked this up through the ether of thoughts at the time that, people are scared of this. And I don't think this was the PSA direction it took. But just looking now back at it, the only anger I have again is people probably misuse this movie and were like, see, this is what could happen. And then people like Mike are like, what are you talking about? No one even watched this movie.
I feel like they may have tried to misuse this movie.
Someone did.
The 18 people that saw it back then, no, I don't think they really cared. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting as we go through these because we watch a lot of movies that have scenes that would be problematic today. We didn't mention any of this during the Crime Wave episode, and we did this on purpose. But there is language in that movie that you could not get away with today.
You shouldn't.
You 100% shouldn't. And we discussed this beforehand before recording that episode. I don't think it's fun to talk about, even in a jokey way.
Yeah. So someone's listening to this and they're like, why didn't you mention all the terrible things?
Yeah. So
that's not why we're getting together for a free podcast amongst friends,
right? I mean, we actually had a discussion about not to harp on Crime Wave, but should we actually talk about this? Just because we're gonna have to omit things.
Yeah.
But we decided to do it anyway. So if you're wondering why we didn't talk about all the weird nonsense in that movie, that's why. But yeah, so we watch a lot of movies that definitely could not be made today. This movie, because of the difference of age in the actors, the weird teenage sexuality, you just can't really do that. You can't, even though the actress was 24, you can't pretend to show tits of a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah, it's super weird.
I don't know where I'm going with that, but I feel like this is one of the least, even though what I just mentioned happened, I feel like this is one of the less problematic movies, which was kind of nice. Even though it does feature that, and it does have, the weird anti-video game bent, which was very popular at the time. But again, I don't think anyone cared about this movie when it came out.
Right. I don't know if you know the Sega CD game and I think it was on a couple other platforms, Night Trap.
Night Trap, yeah.
This movie was the fears of teens and kids playing Night Trap and what would happen. And if you research Night Trap, you'll find out that...
Well, Night Trap was kind of gross.
I think Night Trap is also PG to PG-13 at most. There's not even profanity. And I think
right.
A woman is wearing a bra in a certain circumstance. And that was just way too much for the 90s.
Well, I mean, the whole point of Night Trap was breaking into a sorority house to rape people.
I think it was... That was not. I think I thought it was aliens were breaking into the house and you were trapping the aliens.
Was it?
I think so.
I thought it was a little bit more sinister than that.
I don't know. I just remember reading more reviews and seeing it played a couple times.
Night Trap is not a game that I ever played.
I don't think anyone.
It was just weird. When I was growing up, it was kind of
full motion video. That was the big thing.
It was one of the videos. It was one of the first full motion video games, and I feel like that's why it was under the lens so much. But yeah, that was just kind of an urban legend for me growing up. You heard about it, you read about it in whatever the Sega version of Nintendo Power was, but then it's you can't
Sega Power.
You can't, you couldn't rent it at Sounds
Carl
Easy Video.
Sagan Power.
Carl Sagan Power. Just billions and billions of Night Traps.
Well, with this, we have definitely reviewed this film today.
Yeah.
And so hopefully you've enjoyed it. As I said, maybe you want to reach out and say, hey, should we review Hackers at some point in time? We would love to and get a whole hacking community together.
If you have recommendations, if there's a movie that you would like to hear us kind of drunkenly dissect for some reason, you email us at rabbittroopsuckspodcast@gmail.com.
Visit our website.
You can also, we have a website. It's http:// rabbittroopsucks.com.
We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook.
Yeah, we have the social medias.
We are on Apple. We are on Google. We are on Spotify.
Wherever you listen to podcasts, we're there. We might even, and check our website if you're interested, where merch might be coming. So we released these on Friday, or midnight on Thursday, whatever you want to call it. We've been doing one a week. I think we're gonna scale back to like every other week, with some bonus content in there as well. So
yeah, we've talked about more summers and winters, maybe once a week, and then other times.
We're not bi-monthly. We're not too far away from Halloween, and we both universally love Halloween and Halloween movies. So there'll probably be a couple extra eps in the October month, which is I think next month at this point.
Yeah.
There might be some more guests. Old guests will probably come back. And
music guests. I wanted to note that we've actively been trying to reach out that if you are in a band and you have some kind of music material and you want us to play it, as long as it's original material and not a cover, just let us know. We would be delighted.
Yeah.
Nothing genre specific. It could be, anything that you want. Just keep it kind of reasonable. If you have any kind of hate speech, keep it to yourself and don't submit that.
Yeah, keep that to yourself. But yeah, so I mean, as we've mentioned before, we're in Denver, Colorado. That's where we're recording from. Our first episode was a Colorado themed episode. There will be more of them. We have a couple in mind.
Oh yeah.
But if anyone from Colorado who's listening to this, if you want to promote your thing, I don't want to get too shilly sounding. I am drinking a Colorado beer right now. It's a Coors, which is brewed in Colorado.
But you're also drinking a Colorado whiskey?
I am also drinking Colorado whiskey from Breckenridge.
Yeah.
If you want to make some kind of cross promotion, this is not something we're going to do. Like I said, no, I don't want to shill too much. But if I just want to put it out in the universe, we'll talk. We'll cross promote.
More with the promotions. I just want to name like places I love, and you guys could just send me some lunches. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. We want to celebrate the things that we enjoy from Colorado, and like hopefully we can work together.
And with this,
yeah,
we hope you enjoyed Brainscan. We hope you know where Edward Furlong is in reality right now. And
I honestly thought Edward Furlong was dead.
That's a shame.
When I looked up this movie on IMDb, I was surprised to find that he was still alive. I thought it was like a Jonathan Brandis thing.
Oh, that's sad. But we'll do some Jonathan Brandis films.
Oh yeah, we might.
And just remember, everybody, Denver, Colorado, we are recording and transmitting to you and the rest of the world. Rabbit Troop sucks.
Rabbit Troops sucks.
It really
They
is.
were totally low.